in this room and for chairing this hearing. I thank our witnesses for being here. I'll just dive in. I know you've been responding to a number of inquiries. I'll begin with the observation that artificial intelligence wasn't something that we invented yesterday. It's been around for decades now. In fact, for years, we've seen AI technology in products and services across nearly every sector of our economy and in a wide variety of use cases. Analysis of each of these use cases and concerns of an AI-enabled society should, in my view, start with the same litmus test. Does existing law address whatever potential vulnerability we're concerned about? I found through my interactions with a number of experts in this area that existing law would address the vast majority of concerns that we have. Not everyone, though. We have to closely evaluate and carefully target areas where existing law doesn't address these vulnerabilities. That's why, of course, we're here today to identify high-risk use cases of AI and discuss potential guardrails to minimize those risks. Recent advancements in generative AI platforms like ChatGPT have raised concerns among my constituents and many others about a dystopian future, straight out of science fiction, that could be right around the corner. Truth is, nobody knows what future this incredible technology will usher in, and it's human nature to fear uncertainty. History shows innovations that democratize access to information and to media, the printing press, recorded sound, film, have been met with similar concerns, usually exaggerated concerns. But history also shows these innovations have brought great benefits to society, to national security, and the economy. As we evaluate the need for any level of AI regulation, it's important we don't lose sight of the many potential benefits that harnessing the power of AI presents. These benefits include self-driving cars, medical advances, immersive technology, educational opportunities, and more. So I sort of want to get on record, high-level perspective. With that said, you're here today, and let us not focus on the unknowns, but rather the knowns, here and now risks. As we think about trust, transparency, and explainability within AI, the goal is not to stifle growth, but rather to increase adoption and innovation in the long term. Ms. Espinel, can you briefly discuss two things? First, the important distinction between a developer and a deployer. And then second, how should Congress think about the role of transparency between businesses and consumers as opposed to transparency between businesses and government? And I ask that you answer these pretty tightly, if you could, so I can ask some follow-up questions. Thanks.
Thank you. So developers and deployers, developers and users. Developers of AI systems are the ones that are producing the AI system. They're creating the AI system, and the deployers are the users. To give an example, a developer is a software company that is developing a speech recognition system, and a bank is using a deployer, using an AI system to help make determinations about who should get loans. Those are very distinct roles, and the developer and the deployer will know very different things about the AI system, both how it's being developed and how it's being used. And because they know different things, they'll be able to do very different things in terms of addressing and mitigating that risks. So as you were thinking about legislation, clearly distinguishing between developers and deployers is critical in order for the legislation to be effective and workable. In terms of transparent, so you also alluded to the fact that, or you mentioned the fact that AI has been used for a long time, right? It has. It's also used in many different types of circumstances. And some of those are high risk, and some of them are lower risk. And it is our belief that in high-risk situations, so for example, a government making a determination about access to public benefits, as an example, if there are consequential decisions that impact a person's rights, we believe there should be legislation requiring that an impact assessment be done and that those risks be mitigated. But there are also uses, as you said, that have been around for a long time that are relatively low risk. So reminding me when I send an email that I may have left off an attachment, or one that's been quite popular lately, adjusting, the background if you were on a video conferencing call. Those are relatively low risks, and having impact assessments required in those cases, we believe, would be overly burdensome and not add a lot of value. But where there are those consequential decisions, whether companies to consumers or government to its citizens, we believe impact assessments should be required.
Well, thank you. Does anyone else want to chime in on any of those points? Otherwise, I'll turn to Dr. Krishnan. Okay. Doctor, what are the clear high-risk use cases to your mind for AI that members of Congress should be thinking about right now?
The ones that come to mind immediately are autonomous vehicles, healthcare, hiring, recruiting, housing, where important scarce resources are being allocated via AI. Those would all represent where there's harm either to the individual or to society if things didn't go well.
Right. And so you're bringing up use cases I'm not surprised by, and then you'd probably acknowledge there's some in the national security realm.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay. I guess the last thing I'd like to ask is, stepping back, AI has, of course, garnered all sorts of attention over the last number of months. Is AI all that different, I'll ask Dr. Krishnan, from other major technological advances, or is it just the latest shiny object that we're attentive to? Why is this so important, or perhaps you'll just say, this is like every other technology?
At one level, it's like other technologies we have dealt with in terms of having this impact on the way work is done, tasks that are impacted. In others, there are special characteristics of the technology in terms of working with the kinds of modality, audio, video, text, things that we've seen as not been part of a technological capability. Like you mentioned ChatGPT in your opening remarks. That kind of capability was not something that, at least the typical citizen was thinking that this was something that a computer could do. And so the difference, I guess, is also in terms of how the technology is able to learn over time with data. So there are some differences that are technical differences with regard to this technology, and then there are differences with regard to how to govern the use of this technology. And that's why in my testimony I talk about data transparency and model transparency and having standards for high-risk applications. And then also having this trust infrastructure, because you can't predict exactly how this technology is going to evolve, to ensure that we are able to capture vulnerabilities, deal with failures, and come up with solutions that can be disseminated.
On the fly, right? The trust infrastructure. I guess
that's like the search for AI is how I think about it, like what we have done for cybersecurity, sir.
Maybe I could pull on that thread just ever briefly, and you can respond to what for me has been an observation. I'll leave it to you to determine whether or not it's been an insight, but my conclusion is we're going to need a lot more expertise on this technology, a lot more sophistication within government, in individual agencies, perhaps at the White House, so that on an ongoing basis, we can figure out how to apply existing statutes to emerging threats or concerns or challenges or opportunities, or to flag when new legislative authorities may be needed. Is that your estimation? It's a human resources challenge within government.
Yes, and in industry as well. So I think a scholarship for service type program for AI would be very, very valuable.
Thank you.
That last point was worth the price of admission. Thank you, Senator.